So now we will start our series. Before that, Tiruvan Sarnai, like we say in Sri Lanka, Triratna Sarnai, and with the permission of the Mahasangha, we'll continue our series. As you all know, I like to tell stories. Maybe you guys now like to hear stories also. So maybe there is a good match there. So today we are going to talk about royal personages, basically. These were not theories, but they did attain certain levels of distinction, and they were declared so by Lord Buddha. So today we will tell the story of two queens and a king. The two queens are Samavati and Magandiya, and the king is the Udena. How many people have heard about Samavati or Magandiya? Anybody? Okay, so 1, 2. Nobody on the women's side, huh? Okay, so there will be something new that you will learn today. When you go from here, you will at least know who these people were and what did they do and what did they attain. So let's start with Samavati. And Samavati and Magandiyas, their stories will cross at some point with Udena also, the king Udena. So let's start with Samavati. Samavati used to live in the Vansha kingdom, or the capital of which was Kosambi. Kosambi is now in UP, near Allahabad. It's about 50 kilometers from Allahabad. So now it's like a gone city because there is nothing there. It's like a small village. But in the time of King Udena and Lord Buddha, it was a major city. And King Udena used to rule on that kingdom. So now what happened was when Samavati was small, maybe 12, 13 years of age, plague broke out throughout the entire kingdom. And so people were dying in the droves. So Samavati and her parents, they all decided, let's go to a big city where we can get some food, some medicine. So they all came to Kosambi. Now in Kosambi, there was somebody, there was a finance minister called Ghosita. Ghosita was a friend of Samavati's father. So they come to Kosambi, they stay in a dharmashala outside of the city. And they are very tired that day. So they send their daughter, Samavati, to a public food distribution like Sadavrat, where they can go and get some food. So they send Samavati. Samavati takes enough food for 3 people and comes back. At the end of that day, the first day, her father dies. So now it's only her and her mother. So next day she goes and she gets food for 2 days, for 2 people. And she comes back. At the end of that day, her mother dies because it's a plague. Nobody knows who can die at what time. It's like, and there are no cures for it. It's like the Black Plague, the things like that. So now on the 3rd day, she goes alone and she gets food for 1 person. So the guy who is distributing the food, his name is Metta, friend, Mitra. That guy now looks at her and says, 2 days ago you got food for 3, now yesterday 2, today 1. Now you are finally realizing how much you can eat. So he was like sarcastic, you know, you are hoarding up the food. You are just being greedy. So she explains to him what happened, that earlier we were 3, then yesterday we were 2, and today I'm all alone now, orphan. So this guy then feels very contrite. He says, why did I say something like this to this young girl? So he said, okay, let me adopt you. You can come and stay with me, and I will take care of you, and that way I will have a daughter and you will have parents. So she says, no problem, because she has nobody else to go to. So she joins him in his household, and then she starts organizing things around at that public distribution place, the food distribution place. Earlier, there used to be like, you know, like you go to railway station and you see a line for reservation and there is really no line. There are like 50 lines going to the one window and everybody is clamoring, take my money, give me my ticket. So public distribution was like that. There was like just chaos and noise and no work was getting done. So it was like an uproar, basically. So now she comes and she, like at an airport, she starts putting dividers and stiles, and people have to make one line and go one after another and all that. So now there is no noise. Now there is no clamor, give me, I'm hungry, I have to go far, and all those kind of things. So this Ghosaka, he realizes that earlier, outside my office, he was the finance minister of that state. There used to be so much noise every day for food distribution. How come now it's quiet? So he goes to Metta and asks him, what's going on? Why is there no sound anymore? Why is there no clamor, no noise? Why everything is so orderly? And Metta explains that I have found this girl whom I have adopted. And that girl is now organized everything. And she's only at this age, point, maybe 14 or 15 years old. But like her name suggests, she is very, she has a lot of understanding inside how to organize things. Samavati, Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. Sam, understanding. She can explain to people, she can convince people. She has all those kind of qualities, kindness, compassion inside. Because of that, she has been able to organize this thing, make it a very nice, organized way of doing things. So Ghosita gets very impressed with what Samavati is doing. So now he tells Metta that I'm going to adopt Samavati. I want to have Samavati as my daughter because you are at a different level. I'm at the finance minister level. She can help me more, maybe organize many other affairs. Metta feels that I don't want to lose her. But at the same time, this is my boss. I cannot say no. Plus, she is going up. She is not going down. She is getting upgraded to finance minister's daughter now. So he says, okay, no problem. After some thoughts and everything. And Samavati, of course, has no problem. So then she becomes daughter of Ghosita. Then one day, while things are going around and all that, and she's helping Ghosita with all other kinds of things, then Udena one day sees her. And she's, by this time, maybe she's at around 16-year-old, the marriageable age in those times in India. So now Udena thinks that I want to marry her. And so Udena tells Ghosita that I want to take your daughter as my wife. He already has two wives. We'll come to that in a minute. So Ghosita knows he's king, right? He knows that this guy is very angry, and you can never trust a king, you can never trust a monkey, and you can never trust a musical instrument. They can be doing all kinds of things anytime without any advance warning. So he is not very sure that he wants to give Samavati to King Udena. So he says no. And just like he is expecting, or just like he thought, king becomes very angry. He says, I banish you from my kingdom. No more staying in my kingdom. And you are like Puran Zamane mein had par. You are now out of my kingdom. You cannot come back to my kingdom. You cannot take anything with you. You cannot take any of your property. All your bank accounts are sealed. All your treasury is sealed. And you are banished. Now you are no longer part of my kingdom. And he locks his palace and everything. So now Samavati has nowhere else to go. And then Samavati realizes that because of me, my adoptee father is given such a bad punishment that he lost everything. He lost all his position, he lost all his money, his status, everything. So she feels very bad. So what she does, she goes to Udena and says voluntarily that I'm ready to marry you. So now there is no force, no pressure, and it's her choice. And so Udena accepts her as wife and also removes all the punishment, all the banishment against Ghosita. So Ghosita comes back in the old position with all his money and everything as it was. Now, so Samavati is in this household, and with Samavati there are two more queens that King Udena had from before. One of them was Vasula-datta. Anybody has heard about Vasula-datta? Those people who read Amar Chitra Katha a long time ago, maybe they know about Vasula-datta. This is part of Amar Chitra Katha also, Vasula-datta. So she is part of not just Buddhist literature, but also in all other Indian literature, Vasuladatta. If you find that comic, try to read it if you can. She is not part of the talk today. The other queen was Magandiya. Now, this Magandiya was daughter of Brahmin Magandiya, and she had conceived a deep sense of hatred towards Lord Buddha. You can say that she was a counterpart, a female counterpart of Devdatta. So she hated Lord Buddha with that deep sense of something done wrong to her. And what was the reason? There's a very nice sutta in Sutta Nipata, in the Atthakavagga, sutta number 9, called Magandiya Sutta. Her father was Magandiya, and daughter was named Magandiya. So Magandiya Brahmin had this daughter, Magandiya, and she was very beautiful. And so there were many people who wanted to marry her. But he decided, I will give her to somebody who is of noble bearing, who is like a world conqueror, like a Buddha, like somebody who is at the highest stage in life. So one time, Lord Buddha comes to their place, and this Brahman sees the footprints of Lord Buddha. And just he realizes that these are the footprints of somebody who is beyond everything, one who is at the highest point in life. And so he decides to give his daughter Magandiya to Lord Buddha. He and his wife come, and they are trying to pour the water. In the olden times, they used to give daughter in marriage by pouring water. There was no elaborate ceremonies and all those kind of things. So he's trying to do that, and Lord Buddha tells him one verse saying, when Mara's three daughters, Raga, Tanha, and Arati, when they were even coming to me, I did not accept them. They were far more beautiful than anybody in the universe. So why would I touch this bag full of dung and feces? Hearing this, Magandiya and his wife, they both became non-returner. And then they have a conversation. After conversation, both of these people, the mother and father of Queen Magandiya, they both become Arahant. But Magandiya, the daughter, she doesn't attain anything. She actually attains the level of hatred because Lord Buddha kind of tipped her off, saying, you are nothing, basically. So she, because of the ego of her beauty and everything, she conceived such a great amount of hatred for Lord Buddha. And finally, after that, these two people have become Arahant now, her father, mother. So they give their daughter in the care of their brother. So now Magandiya is living with her uncle. And that's where she gets married to Udena. Uncle takes her to Udena and gets her married to Udena after Vasuldatta. So Vasuldatta is number one, Magandiya is number two queen, and then comes Samavati. Magandiya could accept that Udena as a king can marry many times. So she has no problem with Samavati being a co-wife with her husband. She has no problem with that. But now comes the main part. So at this point, another character gets introduced in the story. When Samavati becomes a queen, she has a dasi called Khujuttara. The Khujuttara is not very good looking. She's a dasi, of course. She's a servant. And she is a hunchback. So she cannot walk properly, and she's like doing things like this, like a hunchback, hunchback in the Shakespeare stories. So she's a hunchback, and she is in charge of going out and buying things for the palace, for the queens. So every day she is given 8 gold coins to go and buy flowers for the palace. But she is a very crafty woman. So she goes out, buys things for only 4 coins, and the other 4 coins she spends on herself, buy perfume for herself or makeup or whatever she is doing in those times. So now she is thieving basically half of the money every day. Then one day so happens that she goes to a garland maker to buy flowers. That garland maker tells her, that today Lord Buddha is coming to my place and you should also come and listen to him. So Kujutara says, okay, no problem. I have nothing else to do. Already bought the flowers. I'll listen. So she goes there and she listens to Lord Buddha giving the discourse. And this discourse changes her life. At the end of that discourse, we are not told what discourse it is, unfortunately. We are not said exactly this discourse. But at the end of this discourse, Kujuttara attains stream entry. Now she is a Sotapanya. And because she becomes a Sotapanya, all her character completely changes. So now she cannot thief anymore. Adinna Dana, she cannot do only Adinna Dana. Those 4 coins are not given to her to buy for herself. So now that day, she goes and buys the actual 8 coins worth of flowers, double the regular. And she goes to Samavati, and Samavati says, every day you bring only 1 box, and today 2 boxes. What happened? Are the garland makers giving you discount now or something like that? And she falls down at Samavati's feet and says, no. I was thieving so far, but I'm not going to take any Adinna Dana anymore. I will not thieve any money from you. And so Samavati realizes that something changed in Kujuttara. So she asks her, what's going on? Like, why did you change suddenly? And she tells her, this is what happened. I listened to Lord Buddha and things have changed for me. I'm not going to be the old self anymore. I am going to do things in the right way from this point onwards. And so Samavati says, okay, good. If that can change you, then what I appoint you now, from now on, every day you go and listen to Lord Buddha, and then you come back and tell us what Lord Buddha preached you. So from that day onwards, Kujuttara started going, listening to Lord Buddha, and then she would come back to palace after the discourse. Samavati and her entourage, she had like maybe probably 400 or 500 women, some from some who are working for her, servants, all these kind of people, royal women, other women. They would put Kujuttara on a high chair, like Ajahn Jayasara was sitting here 3 days. They would put her on a stage, wash her feet with the rose water, and then listen to Lord Buddha's words coming out of Kujuttara's mouth. And this collection of discourses that Kujuttara gave, indirectly Lord Buddha's discourses, but Kujuttara gave to Samavati and her entourage, that turned into a book, a unique book in the world history, where a Dasi uses the words of the master of the Lokanath to give to other people. And that book is Itivuttaka. And that book has 112 discourses, and that's the origin story of that book. Where did that book come from? So Kujuttara is now telling Samavati, and over time what happens is Samavati herself attains the stream entry listening to the discourses of Lord Buddha. And so she becomes more and more devoted to becoming a Buddhist, doing Buddhist principles, no killing, keeping precepts, all these kind of things. Now let's go back to Magandiya. Magandiya sees that Samavati has become friends with her arch rival, somebody she hates with all her being, Lord Buddha. So now Samavati becomes her enemy. So now she says, I don't mind if you are co-wife with my husband, but I mind if you follow Lord Buddha, because she is like Devdatta, female Devdatta. She doesn't want anybody to praise Lord Buddha in any way, in any sense. So whatever happens, I will not let you praise that person and bring him in the palace, basically, Lord Buddha's teachings, right? So she starts her game. What is her game? She starts with telling Udena that Samavati is trying to kill you. Samavati is planning somehow when you are sleeping kill you or poison you or do something like that. But Udena doesn't believe too. So that first thing that she wants to do doesn't work. So then she says, okay, this didn't work. Let me try the other way, So she says, okay, let's spread rumors about Lord Buddha and Sangha. So she tells all her dasis. She also has an entourage of 400 or 500 dasis. So she tells all of them, go and spread rumors. about Lord Buddha, about like one time people who know maybe Sundari the Wanderer or Chincha Manvika or those kind of rumors start spreading rumors that he doesn't have good shield, he is not a good person, Sangha is not good, they are not practicing in the right way. So she tells her group to go out and start spreading rumors. She becomes successful in that. Those 400-500 people, they convince some of the town people and they start talking. It's like bubbling up. The pot is bubbling. So Venerable Ananda goes to Lord Buddha and says, okay, maybe we should leave this town because all the people are turning against us, not giving us too much. Lord Buddha just smiles at him and says, just wait a day or two. Everything will disappear. And it does happen. It's like a momentary boil in the water, but then water comes down, the milk comes down, the fire goes out, basically. So this is the second time now Magandiya has failed. So she tries the third time. Samavati is a practitioner of Metta, and she has taken the first 4 precepts, right? So Panatipata, she cannot do any Panatipata. So Magandiya selects a number of chickens, live chicken, and sends them to Samavati, sending a message and telling also Udena that you should cook them for Udena. Now she has to kill them. So she refuses. Samavati refuses. She says, I'm not going to kill anything. I'm not going to do anything that requires any panatipata. So Udena understands that, because by this time Udena has realized that there is a diamond in the heart of this woman that gives me calm, peace. When I'm with her, she is not trying to get something, give me this, that person is bad, give me whatever he has or she has. This person is a good person. So Udena says, okay, no problem. So Magandiya failed third time. Now Magandiya tries the fourth time. She puts a poisonous snake in Samavati's chamber where Udena would come and spend night with her. The poison sacs are removed. The poison tooth and the sacs of the snake are removed, so it cannot kill anybody. But still, it's a poisonous snake, right? It's a cobra. You can tell it's a cobra. So Udena sees this cobra in the room of Samavati, and he becomes very angry. So he takes up his bow and arrow and shoots an arrow at Samavati, intending to kill her. But Samavati is a practitioner of Metta. So she starts practicing Metta, and that arrow bounces off basically her. There's an invisible shield around her. It's like in the science fiction movies you see. There's an invisible shield that something hits it and then just deflects on the other side. So doesn't happen anything, nothing happens to Samavati. In little while, Udena regains his senses. He controls his anger and realizes what happened. He says, I couldn't even hurt this woman. This woman has power way beyond what I can imagine in terms of not evil powers, the power of good. And so he becomes even more devoted, and he starts spending even more time with Samavati and listening to what Samavati is saying, what Samavati is teaching, how to control anger, how to not hate people. All these kind of things are going on. So this makes Magandiya even more upset, right? One after another thing she does, and the only thing she can do is bring them closer and closer and closer together rather than split them apart, basically. So now Magandiya is really very upset, like, what's going on? Why can't I do that? I'm so beautiful, this, whatever. So at that point, she plans something that is very evil. She works with her relatives, the uncle who gave her to Udena in marriage and other relatives. She calls all of them and cooks up a plan, a prapanch. And she cooks up a plan saying, Uncle, you and all the family members, burn up the palace where Samavati lives. Somehow plan it out so that the palace burns out, basically, and then all of them die. This is the only way I see that I can separate them, basically. I cannot separate them anymore, so take out one part of the equation. So there is no left-hand side, then there is no right-hand side. It's only one, me and Udena then. So she goes away so that nobody can suspect that Magandiya had anything to do with this. And her uncle and relatives, they In those times, they used to like have rags with oil. They wrapped it around the entire palace and all the pillars and burnt it up basically. So Samavati and all her 400-500 entourage that was with her, all of them die in that fire basically. They all die. And when this happens, now there is a big talk in the entire town, right? Because Udena's entire palace, Antevas, entire palace disappeared basically, burnt away. And so even the monks are also upset that Samavati was such a big devotee of Lord Buddha. So what happened? So then they come and they ask Lord Buddha about this. There is a sutta in Udana also, in the 7th Vagga, in the 10th. And that's where Lord Buddha tells them that all these people who died, one thing should console you, that every single one of them had either become a stream enterer, a once returner, or a non-returner. So all of them died with some fruits. They are not subject to going down. They are not subject to hell. And they all died with a mind full of peace and kindness. Even when they were burning, their mind was calm and cool. Body was burning. Mind was not burning. So they are not subject to any lower realms, and they will be freed wherever they are born. Samavati becomes a non-returner at that point, and she goes is born in the pure abodes. Then there is another time when the monks were discussing. What were they discussing? They were discussing that this Magandiya and Samavati, out of these two queens that the king had, who was living and who was dead, who was alive and who was dead. And that's when Lord Buddha gives another teaching in the Dhammapada. These are the verses 21, 22, and 23 of the Dhammapada. And these are very famous padas. The first one is Appamado amata padam pamato machuno padam appamata namiyanti ye pamata yatamata. What does it mean? It means that apramad, heedfulness, is the path that leads to Amrita, path that leads to not dying. And not dying, not in the sense of being immortal forever, live like Ashwatthama, live forever, not like that kind of thing. But be heedfulness, and you will not be committing things that you should not be committing. Pamato machunopadam. Pamad leads you, heedlessness leads you to a state where you are dying again and again and again, forever dying basically. And then comes appamata namiyanti, ye pamata yathamata. Those who are heedful, they do not die. But those who are heedless, they are as if they are already dead. So Magandiya was the one who was heedless. She was alive, but she was already dead at that point, basically, because she didn't know the difference between the good and the bad, what should be done, what should not be done. And Samavati, even after she was burnt alive, she was still alive because she knew what it means to be a good person, what it means to do the right thing. So this is where that story ends, but the story is not finished yet. Because we still, Samavati is gone, Magandiya comes back, but Udena, what about the Udena, the angry guy, no? Very revengeful guy also, no? He kicked Ghosita out of the place, right? Just to get his daughter. So Udena comes back and he's very upset because by this time, Samavati is his best friend in a way. She is calm, she is cool, she is not greedy, she doesn't want anything from Udena. She wants to give that you be happy, control yourself, don't fight with this, don't fight with that. So now it's like his Udena's friend, philosopher and guide was Samavati, and she's gone. Now who does he talk with? Who does he philosophize with? Who does he learn from? There's nobody. So he becomes very upset, very angry. It's like boiling inside him. So he starts thinking that who and how could this have happened? And after examining all these cases, he realizes that it must have been Magandiya, who all along the way never liked Samavati and kept on spreading one rumor after another, and so on and so forth. So he says, I have to catch this person, whoever killed my beloved wife. And as a king, it's his duty. He's also the Supreme Court Chief Justice of his state. So he must capture the person who did this evil deed. So he gets his darbar, the Raj darbar, gets everybody there. And then he tells his ministers and everybody, what does he say? He says that only somebody who could have loved me very, very much could have done this. Because Samavati was always trying to kill me. She was always after my life. So at this point, a minister asks, who could have done it? And again, king says, somebody who must have loved me very, very much. So now Magandiya is standing there. And she jumps up saying, I did it, because she wants to win the affection of king, right? King also promised a big reward, saying, whoever loved me, I will take care of you forever, and this, that. So now Magandiya jumps up and down with joy, saying, I did it. So king says, oh, very nice, very nice. Why don't you invite all your relatives and everybody, and I'll give you big boon. I'll give you a big prize. So Magandiya calls her uncle and relatives and uncle's children and whoever was part of this game, calls all of them. They all come. And now Udena becomes the cruel guy, the cruel king. He burns the entire, every single relative of Magandiya alive. And after burning them, he plows the field, so even their bones cannot be found. Even the Antim Kriya, like going to wherever, those who are following the Shrad and all that, so putting the Asti in the Ganga and all that, none could be done, right? So he takes care of all her relatives in this cruel way. And for Magandiya, he reserves the cruelest punishment. While Magandiya is alive, she is made to eat her own flesh. Her own flesh is cut off, cooked, and fed to her, basically. And that's how she dies. So, cruelest punishment. But this is also not suitable for a king to do so cruel, terrible punishment, even though she did terrible thing. But Udena should not respond with another terrible thing. So, again, he loses control of his mind at that point. And he responds to this evil deed with another evil, which he should not have been done. But this is where ultimately the story ends, that Samavati, who always kept on practicing the good, the punya parts in her life, and followed Lord Buddha's teachings, even while burnt alive, went on to a higher station in life. And Magandiya was always full of hatred towards Lord Buddha. The worst kind of hatred you can get is to Lord Buddha, basically. There's no worse hatred than that. So, and her destiny ended up in such a cruel way, basically. So this is the story about those times and that part. I didn't tell you the Dhammapada verses 22 and 23, because I want to give it to you guys as homework. You should read it. There are very nice books here. Bada Bhanteji has translated Dhammapada, and I think the commentary on Dhammapada also. So you should read up both of those, and that way you can actually crystallize your own learning and your own teaching about what Dhammapada is, what these stories are, and what do we learn from these kind of stories. So with that, I would like to end today's session here, and then we can open up for questions you may have. Some of these stories are also very shocking, no? Some of these stories can shock sometimes, so people cannot come out of like, what did I hear? Okay, I need to think about it. And that's also fine. Feel free to ask questions if you have any.
Anybody has questions? We can take one question or two questions. Samavati's story. Anybody? Yes?
Namo Buddhaya. My question is towards Samavati's teachings to the king. So he spent so much time with the Samavati. Why couldn't he transform his heart? And he remained the same, and he still committed the same kind of cruelty that was committed with Samavati.
Maybe what happened was he did not have enough paramis for his character to change, like when something goes inside, iron goes inside and gold comes out. That happened with Kujuttara. That happened with Samavati. That happened with Samavati's entourage. And I forgot to mention one more thing, why this happened. Lord Buddha said why these 500 women died in such a cruel way. In the past life, Samavati was queen of Banaras in some other life, long time ago. And one day she had gone in the winter time, like this time, to the river to bathe with her group. And it was quite cold. So after bathing, she told her entourage to light a fire in a bush so she can warm herself up with the fire. Now it so happened that within that bush, there was a Pacheka Buddha who was meditating inside. And when Pacheka Buddhas or people in jhana meditate, they can meditate up to 7 days and their body cannot come to any harm while they are meditating, while they have made a decision. So these queens and her entourage burnt the bush. Pacheka Buddha is inside. Then they realize that there is a person inside. So they become very afraid. They had no intention before. They didn't know there was a Pacheka Buddha inside. But now they see Pacheka Buddha, they want to cover their crime because it's homicide. So they want to cover their crime. So Samavati advises them, let's pour some oil on the Pacheka Buddha and burn him alive. So even if he doesn't burn, he will burn. And because Samavati did that, Pacheka Buddha did not die. Nothing happened. After 7 days, he comes back and he goes. But because this evil intention that Samavati had of pouring the oil to burn so the evidence gets destroyed, that intention led to her burning alive in this life. But she had enough paramis. Those paramis are what was already ready. This thing was like at the melting point. It just needed to melt. And then you can shape it in whatever you want. So with Samavati and with Kujuttara and with many other people, Magandiya and his wife, all these people, they all had paramis. Udena probably did not have paramis. Kings usually don't. Kings usually don't. They don't have, because they have to do many deeds which are cruel, which are evil. They have to administer justice. They have to kill people. There's another good Jataka on that you should read, Mugapakha. Mugapakha Jataka. There's a Temya Jataka also. It's called Temya. This Jataka you read, you will see that Lord Buddha, once as a king, after he died, he went to hell for 20,000 years. And then he comes back and he has a memory of his hell and the previous life. And he is born again in a kingly palace. And from birth, he decides, I don't want to spend more life in hell. So I'm going to, in this life, be a dumb and person who cannot do anything, like useless, handicapped person. This entire Jataka is on that. Read that Jataka. So kings usually have hard time, in my opinion. Kings, I have not found too many kings. Pasenadi, no. Only king I know is Bimbisar, I think. He's the only one who entered stream, but nobody else that I know entered stream.
Thank you. I also wish to know what is Pacheka Buddha.
Pacheka Buddha is a private Buddha. Buddha that becomes Buddha on his own. He or she, I don't know, I haven't seen she, but he becomes a Buddha by discovering the methods by which Vipassana and everything is done, but cannot teach anybody. So this, they do not establish a dispensation. They don't have a sasana. There is no Buddha sasana. There is no Pacheka Buddha sasana. They become private Buddha and they pass away, taking all the knowledge with them, but they can't teach anybody else. So that's the difference. Buddha, Pacheka Buddha, and Arahant. You have 3 levels of attainment. And 3 levels of getting enlightened, not the attainment, getting enlightened. But do you guys like the stories, or do you guys want to listen more about suttas? We can do both. We can always change. So it's not as if we have to stick with one. But I thought usually all of us Indians would like stories, you know. Most people like stories. So is this a good way of proceeding with the Dhamma teachings?